We're going to start the ceremony now, and this is to honor Senator Peters. So my name is Captain Dan Ponk, retired. I'm the Executive Director of the Navy Supply Corps Foundation. We've got a small group. We'll keep it a little more informal. But I want to welcome everybody to today's event. I just want to announce some guests here. So first of all, Senator Jack Reed, thank you, sir, for joining us. Chairman of the Armed Services Committee. Also have Captain Retired John Jackson, Professor at Navy War College. Captain Mike York, Commanding Officer, Navy Supply Corps School, Fike Raza, Senator's aide, and Lieutenant Sarah Blake, who is from the Office of Legislative Affairs. So for our guests, the Navy Supply Corps Foundation, we're a nonprofit philanthropic organization. Been around since 1970. We're headquartered in Athens, Georgia. That's where we're registered in the state of Georgia. But basically, we're started to provide educational assistance, scholarships for dependents of Supply Corps officers. That's how we got started. We've expanded now into transition services for our members transitioning from active duty. We also have family aid support for members of our community who experience a tragic loss. We provide support for them. And scholarships is our big one. We've given about 6,500 scholarships since 1970, almost $7 million in scholarships. Our scholarship board is meeting in a couple of weeks. We also give out memorial scholarships. So for the dependents whose parents may be killed in active duty, we give out a 4-year scholarship to our dependents. And since we started that about 15 years ago, we've given out about 26 scholarships to supply officers who were killed in active duty to their dependents. So today's ceremony is one of our mottos, or our motto of the Supply Corps Foundation is taking care of our own. And today we're going to take care of one of our own, that's Senator Peters. Today, Senator Peters is recognized as the 60th Distinguished Alumni of the Foundation. Bud Schiffer, one of our board members, and the Distinguished Alumni will talk more about the Supply Corps, or the Distinguished Alumni Program in a minute. But welcome everybody, and we're honored to have you, Senator. And with that, Bud, if you join me up here, Bud's going to give a little background on the Distinguished Alumni Program and talk about the program. So, Bud.
Thank you, Dan. Senator. Well, one of the foundation hallmarks is our Distinguished Alumnus Program. We established it in 1989, and the concept was to recognize retired and former Supply Corps officers who, after their military service, have distinguished careers in either the public or the private sectors. And they credit their Supply Corps experiences to really being a foundation for their future success as they moved along. And as Dan mentioned, to date we have 60 Supply Corps Foundation members that have been named as Navy Supply Corps Foundation Distinguished Alumni. Each of them has 3 things in common. Number 1, they were a successful Supply Corps officer. Number 2, they've had a significant career achievement post the Supply Corps. And number 3, they all credit their experiences in the Supply Corps as setting a foundation for their future success. There's a number of noted people that are Supply Corps officers that have become distinguished alumni. They include Melvin Laird, J.W. Marriott Jr., the late Regis Philbin, Roger Staubach, Vice Admiral retired Ed Straw. And there are other names that you may not be familiar with, but they served in leadership roles, key leadership roles in a lot of well-known organizations such as Lockheed, General Mills, United Airlines, PepsiCo, New York Life, and many others. So Gary, when we were talking, you had mentioned to me that your time as a supply officer really did have a lot to do, and you said in your remarks today, to shape your future, both as an elected and as a public servant. You also mentioned that the patriotic individuals you got to serve with within the Supply Corps, it never mattered what their political ideology was, that their role was always focused on getting the job done, getting it accomplished. So I think those are great words, and we appreciate it, and we welcome you to our community, and thank you for being here, and that's what the DA program is all about at the Supply Corps Foundation. So welcome aboard as a DA myself, and we're delighted to have you. Dan, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Bud. Appreciate that. And now I turn over to Admiral Leiden, who is the chairman of the foundation, and will introduce Senator Peters as well as present the awards to Senator Peters.
Okay, so I always knew that senators were very powerful people and could do incredible things. But it got reaffirmed this morning when, as you walked into the building over at the Supply Corps School, the sun came out. The sky split and the sun came out. And I mean, hopefully somewhere somebody got a picture of that, because that was incredible there. So, and you know, it's we had the graduation this morning, and thank you very much for not only coming up here to do the ceremony, but to participate in that graduation. You probably saw afterwards, some things haven't changed on graduation. You know, I did it, I think, 40-some years ago, but it was a while ago. And so between then and today, it's still the same thing. The last place you want to be is at the entrance to the parking lot where all of the graduates are parked after that graduation ceremony, because it's pretty dangerous as they head out and leave. All with smiles on their faces, as Captain York talked about, but still there. So, you know, Bud talked about the qualifications and that. And, you know, behind all that, too, is that we look to our distinguished alumni to basically pass that message on to the active duty officers, and particularly, you know, the brand new ones like today. And I guess I would normally say you hit it out of the park with your comments this morning with them, you know, giving them a charge, how important it is, how important they are in that. But I guess because it's, you know, Final Four, so what do we say, you know, all net or something like that, you know, swoosh, but you did it. So thank you very much on that particular thing. What I want to do is I want to honor you. I want to mention a couple themes instead of, you know, just, you know, talking about a bio or anything. You know, what are the themes that I think match you to the criteria that Bud was talking about there? And the first one is patriotism. And that's your service in the Supply Corps. And starting with that, you know, you volunteered, you joined into the Naval Reserve, you supported the CBs, you deployed to, or were doing service in Diego Garcia, or excuse me, Sigonella and what was it? Bahrain, yeah. So Sigonella and Bahrain, you did several years of service, you moved out, 9/11 happened, you came back in for another 4 or 5 years there. So up until you were drilling reservists, up until the time that you went into Congress there. So patriotism is the first thing I would say there. Why did you sign up? I found an interesting quote for you. You know, you said somewhere along the line, it's something my father instilled in me. Military service is an important responsibility of citizenship, and I think that's an incredible perspective to have on it. So thank you. And you know, I think you'll talk about a tradition in your family and going way back, and so that's impressive. You were the next in the line of a very impressive group of forebears that served our country there. Business success, you know, over 20 years in the investment industry. Academia, you were out there teaching, you know, business policy, strategic transformation, financial management, those sorts of things. So you shared your business experience with them then. And then, you know, probably most importantly is your next round of service, and that's to your country there. So from your local Rochester Hills City Council to the Michigan Senate to the U.S. Congress to the U.S. Senate, you know, where you are presently there, you've been just superb in serving your local community, the state of Michigan, and the United States of America, our country there. You know, following up on that, I guess the next theme I'd talk to you about is national security, and your leadership positions in the Senate. You know, define your critical role you have in protecting our nation there. Absolutely critical there. Sitting on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs, or chairing this Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, on the Armed Services Committee, and the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. So a wonderful track record of service in the Senate. And I normally don't like to just pull stuff out of a bio, but I think one of the most impressive things is when you were recognized in your second term in the Senate as the #1 most effective senator there for you know, most standalone bills passed in that, and the first time that somebody in the minority actually won it in the 40 or 50 years that they were doing it there, and just absolutely impressive. And another quote that I found from you there, from your past, and hopefully you remember this one, is One of the missions in the CB battalion was to build bridges. And I like to say we learn how to build bridges while getting shot at. It's kind of a metaphor for Washington. People are constantly taking shots, but we got to be able to build bridges. We got to bring people together. It's about being a practical problem solver. And I think today that couldn't be more relevant than any time before. So absolutely superb, the bipartisan approach you've taken and the success that you've had. And next theme, support to veterans. And we talked a little bit about this, but your service as a supply officer and your work abroad in the different operations there, obviously they've had a lasting impact on you, and you've made veterans a priority by looking through some of your legislation and the things that you've supported in that. And in fact, if you don't know, I think one of your highlights is this annual motorcycle tour through Michigan on his new. Have you used the new bike?
I have indeed, yeah.
Okay, so on his new Harley Davidson there, and where he, in addition to other people, he gets to talk to a lot of veterans and really thank them for their service. So that's wonderful. So his service has already been recognized by other organizations. The Boy Scouts have made him a Distinguished Eagle Scout in 2019, and the state of Michigan selected him for the Michigan Veteran and Military Hall of Fame in 2021. So now it's our turn today to kind of put our opinion on the table of your tremendous accomplishments throughout your career, your contributions to the nation and the state and the community, and we couldn't be more delighted in your agreement to accept our invitation into the Distinguished Alumni Program. And again, it's those themes, starting with patriotism, I think, that make you just an incredible candidate to join a very distinguished group there. And we look forward to, again, the one thing is, like I said at the beginning, is just like you did today, is any opportunity you have, you're absolutely welcome to come back and talk to the active duty, talk to the reserve, talk to the supply officers. And again, what you talked about this morning was absolutely wonderful. So thank you, and if you join me up front, we'll make it official for you there. I'll bring you over here. I guess we'll go right in front of the sign here.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first thing we have is just the official clock, and it says the Navy Supply Corps Foundation 2021 Distinguished Alumnus Award, Senator Gary Peters as a Distinguished Alumnus of the Navy Supply Corps for lifelong achievements and dedicated service to the Supply Corps and civilian community, and I'll add our nation. So 1 April 2022.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we've talked a lot about history, so we have the latest book for you here. So we have two of them now. One written by now deceased Admiral Frank Alston, and this is a later one with one of your fellow distinguished alumni, Bill Marriott, giving the foreword there. And it's an interesting timeline of the history of the Supply Corps, and I think some of the things in it will be very interesting to you. So hopefully in your busy schedule,
I'll definitely read it. I got another airplane time. I'll read it on the airplane.
Thank you.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. I know. It continues.
Yeah. Well, this is just, you got to have a wall thing. So
I gotta have something
one for your counter or your bookcase, one for your wall. So that's this.
That's really wonderful.
All right, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, it's not over, but it's close.
It's not over yet.
So you got to have the traditional coin, okay, for the foundation, and then just the lapel pin.
Oh,
But I know you have another more important one that you have to wear right now.
Right
So
now, yeah.
someday you
Put that on
could
too.
wear that.
That's
So,
pride.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, I think my table's empty. So sir.
Shall I do mine before he speaks, or after?
Oh no, we'll let him speak. Guys.
Very good.
Well, Bill, I'll say a few words here.
Over to
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Admiral Lyden. That's an incredibly warm introduction. Really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. And it's truly it's a privilege to have this award and to be a proud Supply Corps officer, which has had a big impact in my life and constantly informs me in everything I do. So this is really something that's very humbling. And as you mentioned earlier today, I had a chance to tour the Supply Corps School here in Rhode Island, which is an amazing place. Of course, Senator Jack Reed tells me everything in Rhode Island is an amazing place. And I always say, Mr. Chairman, of course, it is a wonderful place here in Rhode Island, but it truly is. And Jack, thank you so much for being here today as well. Certainly, and when you walk through the school, it reminds you of my days in the Supply Corps School, which was back in Georgia, and I've been reminiscing with some other folks who had a chance to go there in Georgia as well. But there's no question that education, although it came a little bit later in life, also prepared me for my other future career endeavors in public service as well. And as you mentioned, Admiral, my service runs in my family. I'm always proud to have a long line of folks in the family who have served this country. A forefather of mine served with George Washington as part of the Virginia Regiment in the Continental Congress, and spent a very tough winter at Valley Forge with him. My other forefather was actually served on both sides of the Civil War. So we were intimately involved in all of that. And then my father served as a first lieutenant in the Army in Europe, and was actually attached to Eisenhower's campaign. And it was actually at his time in Reims where he met this beautiful French woman and ended up marrying her. That is my mother. Brought her back home, somewhat of a surprise to my grandmother, but it worked out. They were married for decades. But my mother has quite a story herself, growing up in France and evacuating from the Germans as they were invading from the north, and talked about her story of as they were evacuating and walking down the road to get away from the Germans. They were heading south, and the French army was heading north, and they were strafed by Luftwaffe aircraft. They had to hit the ditches. A vehicle in front of her exploded, and everybody was killed. And then she eventually got back to Reims later to Nazi occupation and lived under occupation for a number of years. And actually, she has her oral history is preserved in the archives at the World War II Museum in New Orleans, which is special for our family to hear that story and remind us that freedom is never free. And I can't imagine if she was alive here today and seeing what's happening in Ukraine would bring an awful lot of bad memories to her, I'm sure. After I graduated from the basic qualification course, like the wonderful people captain that I got to see here today, I served with a unit as part of my reserve duty. It was in Bahrain and United Arab Emirates with Combat Logistics Group in the 5th Fleet, and that's certainly where you learn the complexities very quickly that are associated with trying to supply forces at sea and logistics chain that's involved in that. Experience that I would have never had I not been in the Supply Corps and had I not been in the Navy Reserve. I also served at the Naval Air Station Sigonella, Expeditionary Logistics, but had the opportunity to serve with the Marines as well. And I understand Marines do really like folks who are part of the Seabees, which I was, Seabee, as a Supply Corps officer, and running around the woods with our military exercises at Camp Lejeune, including putting together those kinds of short-term bridging that the Seabees would build to help the Marine Corps, and but also going through the military exercises to be able to protect that position as we are building that. But it's certainly it was a particular honor as I'm here today to speak this morning. That was just pretty amazing to always see these wonderful young men and women who are willing to step up and take the oath and serve the country. And as we talked about this morning, and we've talked about here, we know that wars are really won on supply management and logistics. You obviously need all of the other parts of it, but if you don't have that logistics support, you're not going to be able to win. And those lessons we're seeing all through history, and we are seeing it again in the Ukraine, where the Russian advance has certainly been stalled. And let's say first and foremost, it's the tremendous courage and the tenacity of the Ukrainian military that have stood up to the Russians that have really been heroic. But if it hadn't been for supply chains failures, inept supply management, they would not probably be in the place that they are in right now. And certainly all of us here recognize the importance of that. To me, being ready for sea, our proud motto, it means more than it basically means having the ability to project American power to the furthest reaches of the globe to protect freedom. And today I still use what I learned as a supply officer in my public service in the United States Senate. I'm one of 17. Senator Reid and I are two of 17 that have military experience that currently serve in the Senate now. As was mentioned, I serve both on the Armed Services Committee with Senator Reid and chair the Homeland Security Committee as well. So national security is a big part of my portfolio in the U.S. Senate. And as I mentioned to our graduates today, I feel like I work with the home team and the away team when it comes to keeping us safe every year. Through my Senate work, I'm also seeing firsthand how the country's threat landscape is changing dramatically, particularly with evolving technology, as we've been speaking about here at lunch. Increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks in particular are things that I'm focused on that target everything from major retailers to small businesses and schools, our nation's critical infrastructure. We've seen the attacks on oil pipelines, meatpacking centers, water treatment plants. These attacks just show how vulnerable every sector of our economy is right now, and our national security is threatened daily from these cybersecurity attacks. And it's either they're adversaries, state actors that are engaged in them, that are trying to expand their influence and their attacks, but also we're finding lone actors who don't swear an allegiance to any particular nation and they don't wear a uniform, but they're wreaking havoc on our lives through cyber attacks. That's why I authored, I've passed several pieces of legislation now to provide tools and resources for schools, for businesses, critical infrastructure to protect their networks. I recently passed with my colleagues, the support of Senator Reid and others, an incident reporting bill to require companies to report cyber attacks so we have better situational awareness as to how we're actually dealing with these significant threats. I was very pleased to see the Washington Post said it was the most significant cyber legislation in history. So I saw that, I said, take that, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. I've got the best cyber legislation in history. But without question, in order for our defenses to remain strong, we have to continually strengthen both our military and homeland defense. And that's why I'm focused on making sure that we're not just ready for sea, but ready to fight tonight as well, and in order to address these ever-evolving threats. Being ready to fight tonight means we have to have the latest state-of-the-art equipment. That's why supporting precision strike missiles and medium-range capability missiles, long-range hypersonics, all of those are critical that we invest in those. Being ready to fight tonight also means the procurement of new submarines and expanding our submarine industrial base as well as the entire industrial base to make warships for the future. It also means making sure our troops get the pay that they certainly deserve and have earned. And while I'm certainly focused on ensuring our service members have the resources that they need for training and for deployment, I'm also making sure that we have their back when they come home to us. We've all seen too often how the transition back to civilian life can be extremely difficult and isolating for too many of our veterans. Some of our veterans who suffer in the shadows from everything from mental and physical wounds to finding good paying jobs when they come back. In my mind, and I know all of you agree, that no veteran should ever bear the invisible wounds of war. That's why I authored and had signed into law my Fairness to Veterans legislation, which helps veterans who are suffering from the invisible wounds of war receive the care that they sometimes were wrongly denied when they came out of the service for no fault of their own. And since my law has been enacted, already over 1,000 veterans have now been were able to successfully petition and receive benefits that were previously denied to deal with their PTSD and traumatic brain injury as a result of their service in the military. I also authored bipartisan legislation that will expand apprenticeship opportunities for veterans to allow them to use their GI Bills not just for college programs, 2-year and 4-year programs, but to get into skilled apprenticeship programs and have the full range of opportunities that can be available to veterans who want to pursue that course in their civilian life. But as all of us know, standing up for our veterans also means standing up for their families. We can never thank each family member and our loved ones for all they do to stand behind those in uniform. And certainly always want to thank, in addition to our active duty service members and veterans, all their families for what they do each and every day.
Thank you.
And it's because of your resolve, everyone here today, because of your resolve, I believe the strength and the might of the United States military remains unsurpassed, and your patriotism and service will certainly never be forgotten. So again, thank you. I'm humbled by this honor, and I'm a proud Supply Corps officer, and I'm not bashful to tell that to anybody because it was an amazing experience for me, an experience that will go with me the rest of my life. Just as I've had the privilege of serving with some of the most patriotic and men and women that I've ever served with, I continue to meet patriotic, wonderful people like I met here today with all of you. So thank you for bringing me into your family here. I appreciate that, and may God bless you, and may God bless this great country of ours. Thank you so much.